And we are live with another edition of Keep Calm and Carry. I really do appreciate you guys swinging by tonight. I know that you have a lot of things going on Monday nights, and I sure do appreciate everybody taking the time to just kind of have a chat with me. It's been a little bit since I've been on the air. I have been out of the country, if you guys didn't know. If you've been following me on Instagram, you may know that I had a little bit of a contest going on and where in the world is Fit and Fire. So we'll get to that here in just a second, but I just wanted to say hello to everybody, let you know that I'm back in America, and I'm kind of happy to be back, to be frankly honest with you. Had a great time on my trip, but it's time to get back to it. Time to get some videos back on the channel and get some things rolling. So naturally, if you guys have any questions whatsoever, go ahead and drop them into the chat room, and we'll check those out. Naturally, Andrew, he's the first one on board. Sir, you be safe over there. He is overseas at the moment, and I really hope that you enjoy your time where you're at and ensure that you get home safely. Um, can't do it without you. Anyway, we have a lot of new subscribers to the channel, so I want to say welcome to you guys. If this is your first time with Fit and Fire or Keep Calm and Carry, I sure do appreciate you guys subscribing and joining the Fit and Fire fanatics. It has been quite an interesting ride over this 11-ish months. So we're just about getting ready to hit the 1 year mark, and we're going to have a very special 1 year anniversary video coming out here pretty soon at the end of the month. So let's get rolling here. Again, welcome to all the new subscribers. Thanks for smashing that subscribe button. Make sure you guys are hitting the bell button on my subscriptions if you're wanting to get notifications. And if for some reason you don't want to get notifications, you can turn those off through the settings in YouTube, or just undo the bell button. But I'd really appreciate if you kept that bell button activated so you guys can hear exactly everything that's going on. BR549, great to see you. Always a staple in the chat room. Thanks. Can't believe you went all the way over there to see a replica of Raymond James Stadium. Yeah, and it actually, the replica was built better than the original. So go figure. I'm going to be drinking a lot of water. I'm extremely dehydrated over this last couple of weeks, and I'm still trying to catch up. So please excuse me while I take sips. Again, if you're new to the channel, fitandfire.com is up and running. I've been making some tweaks with the website. So naturally, I'm going to have deals of the week and some great internet finds on my gear list. It's going to be gear that I'm preparing to buy myself or stuff that I already use. And then I've added a new tab that is going to be my build list. So a lot of the different builds that I've done, regardless if it's just an assembled lower and an assembled upper that I put together, or ones that I've actually built from the ground up, I'm going to have parts list on each one of those different types of builds. So my AR precision pistol, my Aero precision rifle, the Palmetto State Armory PA-10 Gen 2, and a new build that we'll talk about here in just a little bit. So the Gun Snob, hey, good to see you. Hope it was cooler weather over there. Yeah, a little bit, not too bad. It was in the 80s and 90s, so still a little bit warm. Some days we're in the 70s, but still a little bit warm, but very, very pleasant. So fitandfire.com, go check it out. Hopefully I can save you guys some money. A lot of the links on that webpage is to affiliate links, so that's a good way to support the channel, but it costs no extra money to you guys, so I'd really appreciate that. There is another way that you can support the channel. It's obviously down in the description below if you're interested in doing that. And each time I get on the air and do a live chat, I wanted to say thank you to each and every single one of you guys who are supporting the channel. Those individuals are 180-Second Ideas, The Semi-Armed Life. Naturally, you guys should already know that I love those two channels. So if you are under a rock, you've been living underneath a rock, go ahead and check out 180-second ideas on YouTube, and then Semi-Armed Life on SoundCloud, iTunes, I think are the two platforms they are. It's a podcast. Go check them out. They are awesome. Andrew, Craig, and the Real Gun Snob. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. I sure do appreciate it. So, Logan White, good to see you in the chat room. Naturally, like I said, the Gun Snob. Thank you so much for being in the chat room and supporting the channel as well. So, we're going to talk about my experiences in my most recent vacation, and this is by no means me gloating about this trip that I went on. That is not the tone that I'm wanting to talk about. I'm just going to let you know that I have saved up for this trip for a very, very long time. I got a very good bonus from my job this year, so a lot of that money went to this trip as well. And this has been kind of a bucket list vacation. So I'm going to hit some of the highlights that I saw while I was on vacation, and then kind of talk about some of the takeaways that I have from that European vacation. So let's get right into it. First and foremost, I flew out of the United States into Newark, New Jersey. And Newark is exactly what you would have expected it to be. The cool thing is, flying into Newark, we were on the right side of the aircraft. So as we're flying in and landing, we were able to see the Statue of Liberty, the new World Trade Center, Tower One, I believe is what they call it. Obviously downtown Manhattan, which is really pretty cool. But once you get into the airport, it's pretty much Newark. You know what you're going to expect. So from there, we flew into Barcelona. And I can tell you that if you guys can spring for first class, it's something that we didn't do. By all means, you guys should do it, because the plane that we were on was extremely uncomfortable. My seat back wouldn't go all the way back. It would, but then as the plane flight went along, it started to ease itself back up. So I was sitting straight up the entire time. So the Grim Reaper jumped in. Hey, glad you're late, but no worries. So once we flew into Barcelona, we had to transfer our bags to a third party who would take our luggage to a cruise ship. It was a Mediterranean cruise with Royal Caribbean is who we went with. And we were on the boat that is called Symphony of the Seas. It was the largest passenger ship in the world currently right now. And Royal Caribbean is actually building the next biggest one. We had 6,000 people on board, and that was just the people on board for cruising, and then another 2,200 for the crew. So roughly 8,200 people on the boat all at once, and it was pretty crazy. But it didn't feel claustrophobic. I never felt like I was bumping into people or anything like that. If you got into some of the clubs or the bars that were a little packed, yeah, but yeah, no big deal. So once we got done transferring our bags to the third party, we decided to jump onto the subway and rolled on over to the La Sagrada, if I can say it correctly, La Sagrada Familia, which is the cathedral, a very famous cathedral in Barcelona. And it is it was started and developed by a artist named Gaudi. He's pretty famous in Barcelona. He has a lot of different artwork throughout the city. And it has been under construction for the last 136 years and will not be completed until 2026. Needless to say, Gaudi is dead and ashes by now, but his dream lives on. So that was a pretty cool little thing to see. From there, we got onto the cruise boat and the cruise ship and left out of Barcelona on our way to Mallorca. And we pulled into Palma, which was a really nice island city. It was really, really interesting. We got to see some caves and got to eat some Majorcan meals. Got to see and tour a pearl factory, which was really interesting. Once we got done with that, we went to Marseille. Now, Marseille had one of the coolest sightseeing things there. I didn't actually go and stop and look at it. I just got to see it from a distance. But if you guys are readers, if you guys, or even if you like movies, and if you've seen the movie, um, the Count of Monte Cristo, I almost had a brain fart there. If you've seen the Count of Monte Cristo, you'll know that um, Edmond Dantes was imprisoned in a island prison called Chateau d'If. And as we were driving from Marseille to Cassis, you could look out into the Mediterranean and see Chateau d'If. So that was a situation where I kind of got to geek out a little bit. So yeah, that was pretty cool. From there, after we left Marseille, we went to Italy. We had 3 ports of call in Italy. The first one was La Spezia, and it's a nice, quaint little port city. Nothing too spectacular. There's some sightseeing to do, but the main attraction, in my humble opinion, is these 5 little coastal towns just north of La Spezia on the Italian Riviera, and those are called Cinque Terre. Cinque Terre is, again, like I said, 5 towns, Cinque Terre, 5 towns that are built into the cliffside of the coast, and there's no cars allowed. So you have to take a train from town to town to town, or you can ferry around from town to town if you'd like. If you're adventurous, you can hike as well. But anyway, what is 98 degrees in Celsius? I have no idea. I have no idea. I would imagine that would be 20 something, 20, I don't know, 25, 26, something like that. I don't know. I can't do calculations, but I'm pretty sure a smartphone can do it for you. So anyway, Cinque Terre is really, really cool, real quaint, real interesting to see how people just kind of live a slower life. It is kind of a tourist trap, but at the same time, a lot of people actually live there. They're also known for their vineyards. They have a number of wineries in the area that produce some really good wine. I had a bottle of it for our lunch. It's not the only thing that we had. We had ravioli and some sardines, actually some fresh sardines, which are actually really, really good. Very different from the canned versions, but they were very good. And yeah, then just kind of walked around, got lost, and then made our way back to the boat and left there and went to Rome. Now, Rome was tops on my list. That before we left, Rome was the city that I really had the most interest. I'm a history major from Kansas State University. I have a bachelor's degree in history, and I really wanted to get lost in Rome. Now, the problem is anything that you do in Rome, anything you choose to do, you should choose to do that one thing on that one day. Otherwise, you're not going to get a chance to experience it. We decided to go ahead and do the Colosseum and the Vatican all in one day. And let me tell you, it was not enjoyable. It wasn't enjoyable because you had to fight the crowds. You had to race from one place to the other. We did get a chance to take a break and eat lunch, and we found a nice little pizzeria, real small, kind of semi-famous Roman pizzeria. Had actual Italian pizza, which is really, really good. And then from there, we went to the Vatican. Now, the Vatican was extremely interesting. They have so many sculptures and paintings and artifacts and everything else that the tour guide said that if you spent 2 minutes in front of each and every single piece that they had at the Vatican, you would spend 12 years at the Vatican trying to look at all of them. So, and that's nonstop, obviously. No bathroom breaks, no sleeping or anything like that. So I thought that was pretty interesting. got to see some Greek and Roman sculptures, and then obviously the most interesting thing that I got to see was the Vatican, and being able to see Michelangelo's paintings was one of those things that I thought I'd never be able to see. So this was a true treat for me. So got done with the Vatican, got to see the Swiss Guards. Those were pretty cool, pretty interesting, and in their get up. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Swiss Guards, but three little tidbits about them. Number one, they are actually Swiss, so they're not Italian. They are Swiss citizens. Number two, they have to be devout Catholics. And number three, it is a 2-year volunteer detail. So you have to meet those three criteria to be considered. And there's obviously a vetting process. And so, yeah, anyway, that is that. With Rome, we left the Vatican just kind of awestruck at the amount of history that is there, and then headed back to the train station to get to the port. Stopped in this nice little cafe and got a cappuccino, an actual Italian cappuccino, and it was really, really good. So that was Rome, and we got one more stop. But before we did that, I wanted to swing back over into the chat room. You guys are just heading back and forth on the chat room. I appreciate that. It's good to see you guys chit-chatting. So so there you go. Drew says 36.67 Celsius is 98 degrees, I guess. I have no idea. I'm American, so I use Fahrenheit. So let's see what else. Yeah, you guys are just chit-chatting it all up. That's pretty cool. Oh, I wonder what the underground levels look like in the Vatican. Anybody want to do a heist? That's funny. They didn't actually get into the subterranean things. I know there's a number of subterranean things that are underneath the Vatican. Obviously, if you've seen the Da Vinci Code, and I guess it's the sequel, they talk about that. But one of the cool things was that they had 2 bronze statues from the Roman period. And when I say Roman period, I'm talking 2,000 plus years old. And those are significant because anything that was bronze that didn't, that was still around when Rome fell, the Roman Empire fell, those were all melted down and used for weapons or tools or whatever the case may be. So these 2 bronze statues were really, really interesting. One was a pine cone, and it is actually the oldest Roman bronze statue in the world. And the second was a statue of Hercules. He's holding a club in one hand, resting it on the ground, and his other hand he has a lion draped over his arm. And I thought that was really, really cool. There's a lot of interesting little quirks about this particular statue, but the very interesting thing was that it was struck by lightning, and the Romans thought that that was a very bad luck sign. So what they did was they took that statue and they buried it and put a stone on top of it and said, "Danger, do not open." Well, fast forward approximately 2,000 years to the mid 1800s, and what do? We crack that thing open, pull that thing out, and the Vatican got their hands on it, and there you go. So that was pretty interesting as well. So anyway, let's head back on over to the chat room real quick. It looks like we got a number of people that's jumped on board. So Lyle, good to see you. Thanks for swinging by. Logan White, always, again, appreciate you swinging by. Kevin Eckdahl, good to see you. Got any questions about the trip, please let me know. So the last stop that we had before we went back to Barcelona was in Naples. Naples we didn't spend hardly any time, maybe an hour inside Naples, but that was after our day at Capri. So what we did was we got off the boat, we got onto a ferry, and then we ferried over to the island of Capri. And again, it's much like the towns in Cinque Terre, very hilly. You have to to get from the port to like downtown Capri. You have to basically climb a couple hundred feet in elevation, whether you're walking the roads and serpentining your way up to the town square or you're taking the stairs directly up. We did a little bit of both, got a little bit of a workout in, and that was nice. Had a great time. Met a lovely couple that we ended up spending the majority of the day with and the evening with as well. Went to the casino together on the boat and had a great time. So, and that pretty much rounds out the trip. We had a day at sea from Naples back to Barcelona, and then we got into Barcelona and immediately flew out, and flew home. So, a very interesting trip. A lot of great things that we got to see. Had a great time. Already planning the next trip to Italy because we want to spend a little bit more time in Cinque Terre. That's going to be the next trip is just hiking from one town to the next. So, and spending a day at each one of those. So, BR549 says, what's the laws on carry over there? Well, to be frankly honest with you, I don't know. I'm almost certain that there are no laws that allow you to carry. And that was actually a great question because I'm going to transition to some of the things that I saw. One of the interesting things was that once we were in, I got to remember all of our adventures. So, and while we were in Mallorca, we didn't see any police officers. We didn't see any uniformed individuals at all. We felt very, very safe. Through the entire trip, we were warned about pickpockets. The taxi driver that we had, and these are his words, not mine, but he said, beware of the gypsies. Make sure that if you carry a bag, you carry it in your front. Carry all of your items in your front pockets, never in the back pocket. And just be aware of your surroundings. So that was the advice that we got from our taxi driver in Mallorca. And he was speaking about France and Italy as well. And so we took heed of his warnings and never had a problem. There was a couple times that we had some individuals that got pretty close, and you have to basically square off with that individual. You have to present your frontal, your front to them to make sure that they know that you're watching, and just basic. I hate to say it like this, but kind of bow up a little bit. But didn't have any problems. Like I said, a couple shady characters that you just kind of keep your eye on and pass. A lot of people coming up and asking you to buy stuff. When we were at Rome at the Colosseum, there were a number of people trying to sell cold bottles of water. But the interesting thing about Rome was they had these fountains all over the place, and these fountains were for people to walk up and literally put your bottle of water underneath of it and fill up your water cup. It's filtered water. You can drink it right there. You can take your hands and wash your face off or wash your hands or whatever you wanted to do. I thought it was really interesting that they provided such a service. But that's about where it ended. Once we got into Marseille and into Italy, that's when we saw a ramp up in the number of uniformed individuals that we saw. Got a few pictures with some soldiers from France and in Italy. And that was a little disconcerting, especially in Italy. Every subway station that we went to and throughout the city was a very noticeable military presence. It wasn't until that we got to Naples that we actually saw a police officer. All the other towns had military in the subways, walking around, just hanging out. And they basically acted as military police or police officers, which was a little bit different. Kind of a little nerve wracking to walk into a subway station and see, you know, two or three Italian soldiers with galils strapped to their front, um, which was pretty interesting. They also carried, so I saw galils, the, and I can't think of the name of it, but it's the Beretta semi, or the Beretta. Um, oh, what do you call it? The assault rifle, whatever they call it. I can't remember what it's called. And their sidearms were Beretta 92Fs, so basically M9s, which is pretty cool. So that was something that um, I was interested to see, but at the same time is a little nerve wracking. So don't know what it's like to carry over there. I don't know what laws there are. I'm sure that there's something that you have to do if you are some type of privatized contractor or um, some military or police officer that you're actually doing work in the country, that you have to be armed, that you're going to have to get special permission from the government through a visa. So yeah, outside of that, I'm not really sure. So Matt Moore says, welcome back to the US of A. I really appreciate it. Thanks. CX4 Storm. No, that's not the rifle from Beretta. I don't think. I thought that was the pistol, and they didn't carry the pistol. It was Beretta 92F is what I saw. So I could be I could be mistaken. I don't know. I'm not very familiar with Beretta. I don't like Beretta. I have my personal reasons for not liking Beretta. For the year that I carried a 92F in Iraq, and it just absolutely sucked. So, was it very warm there, Mark? It wasn't. It wasn't very warm. It was hot, but it wasn't warm, right? So it's a different heat, right? The humidity is very, very high, so it seems warmer than what it normally would be like back here in the United States. Obviously, like here in the state of Kansas, we have very humid days, but for the most part, our humidity hovers around the 40 to 50% mark. Last Thursday, we had a day where we had 105-degree temperature with 77% humidity. So the heat index was 115. You didn't have that over in the Mediterranean. And matter of fact, the Mediterranean water was surprisingly cold. The water was 17 to 20 degrees Celsius, or approximately 65 to 70 degrees. And it took your breath away when you jumped in it. So that was actually a very, very shocking surprise to us in more ways than one. So let's see. Drew says, I'm carrying my wallet and passport in my front pocket. Good man. That's exactly what you need to do. Let's see what else we got going on here in the chat room. Logan White says, need to be a law enforcement or military or work for armored transport companies. Yeah. In Canada, I would imagine. Is that right, Logan White? I'm pretty sure. In Canada, I mean. Yep, there you go. So Kevin Ekdahl says the ARX 160, that very well may be it. It looks like a futuristic version of the AR-15, basically. Kind of a mashup between an AR-15 and like a SCAR, maybe. So yeah. So Beretta Storm carbine. Yeah. Anyway, so the other thing that I really was kind of bothered by, two other things actually. One was the amount of trash. Rome and Naples were dumps, and I don't want to badmouth those two towns, because I know there are some great people that live there, and I know that they get a lot of sightseers and vacationers there, so it's not completely their fault. I'm sure that all the visitors contribute to the trash problem, but let me tell you, man, it was bad. It was really bad. You know, pigeons everywhere, you know, at your feet. It just it's just I don't know. I was very disconcerted with the cleanliness of those towns. You know, I've been to New York, I've been to Baltimore, I've been to DC, and yeah, LA. Those towns are dirty, but not as bad as Rome, not as bad as Naples. It was disconcerting, to say the least. So I just had this, I don't know. I guess I had outlandish expectations for what I was going to see there, and yeah. So I will say that I was a little bit unnerved walking around without my CCW. Um, I never felt unsafe because I know my abilities of being able to protect myself and being able to take care of the people that are around me. But you know that can easily get flipped on its head. My abilities can get flipped on its head when you add another person or two more people. So again, just stayed away from areas that didn't seem like we need to be there. We didn't really walk through alleys unless we were on um, the island or Cinque Terre or yeah, Capri. So overall, didn't feel unsafe, but at the same time, I didn't feel 100% safe, if that makes any sense. So um, anyway, all right. So that's been the European trip. And what was my biggest takeaway from it? Oh, the second thing was cell service really sucked. You know, I've got Verizon and I got the international plan. So, you know, they charge you $10 a day and you get 24 hours to use data, cell phone, whatever. And it, the service really was not all that great. I was constantly having to shut down apps and restart them to try to get a better connection. The LTE service was not guaranteed. Um, you know, we were able to make phone calls and those were okay, but anytime we needed to surf the web for any reason, it was hit or miss. So that was kind of frustrating. Kind of felt like you're in a rural part of Kansas, you know, to be frankly honest with you. So with all of that, the biggest takeaway, and I don't want to sound pretentious here, but the biggest takeaway was I was very proud to be an American, you know, and I know that's cliche and it may sound a little bit pretentious, but we have it so good here. Um, Seeing the homeless walk around, see people who are eking out a living by selling bottles of water. You know, yeah, in larger cities and in larger towns, you're going to have those groups of people, but it just seemed like there were so many more where we were at, and again, it didn't make us feel unsafe, but at the same time, it just gave me just that much more um, pride in America. You know, we are not perfect. We are not. We're not, I wouldn't say probably the best place to live. We're not the safest place to live, but the amount of items that we have at our fingertips, the niceties, the plush things that we can reach out and grasp within a moment's notice is, you know, something that makes you feel very, very comfortable. And when you go overseas and all of a sudden you don't have those, or people don't travel as fast. I mean, shoot, just trying to get a taxi, go to New York or Kansas City or, you know, any major metropolitan area and try to get a taxi. It's not very hard. Even getting an Uber, it's not hard. You just, you know, use an app or you flag one down. In every town that we went to, you had to go to a taxi station. And once you're at that taxi station, then you had to call for a taxi. And then they tell you to be there in 15 minutes. And 25 minutes later, they may show up. So That was a very stressful part of the traveling, especially when you had specific time hacks. You couldn't get off the boat until this time, and you had to be back to the boat by this time. And in Marseille, we actually almost missed the boat. The only reason why we didn't miss the boat getting back was because one of the Royal Caribbean uh, cruise excursions, their bus was actually late, so they had to hold the ship waiting for that excursion to get back, and allow those 40 some odd people to get back on board. Um, so the things that we have in this country uh, is it's almost I don't know. It's almost we're almost gluttons, with the amount of things that we have, the amount of freedoms that we have. There's nothing in the United States that blocks internet traffic, right? In Europe, they just passed this new bill that they can start blocking certain things on the internet that they will not allow people to see, certain e-commerce stores and so on and so forth. I don't know the specifics of it, but I know that it really harpens into their internet freedoms. United States, we don't have anything like that, right? We can get taxis or Uber very, very easily. Our cell phone services are very, very easy. We can say whatever we want. We can do whatever we want. We can travel wherever we want without any type of documentation or paperwork, unless obviously you're going to Canada or Mexico. It's easy for us to get a job. I mean, if you're willing to work, you can find a job very easily. So, all of these different things really gave me some perspective on my life that I've got it really good. I've got it very, very good. And I'm very thankful to be that. And it just kind of reinvigorated my resolve to, um, well, kind of, be more of a patriot when it comes to the things that we do have. Not necessarily rub it in people's faces, but just be a little bit more of a patriot. So there you go. That was the European trip, pretty much in a nutshell. I know that really doesn't have much to do with what's going on with Fit and Fire, but it was a great vacation. It was good to take a break and step out of my bubble. That was the biggest thing, is stepping out of our bubbles and going someplace that we've never been before. Communicating with people that don't speak English. For the most part, they did speak some type of broken English, or you could communicate using hand and arm signals. Rally the troops. Rally point here. Move out. Give me a cup of coffee. But for the most part, it was a very interesting experience, and one that I'll cherish. So let's swing on over to the chat room and see what you guys are chatting about here. I'm going to scroll up here and see what everybody's going on. I guess Dan had to run, so have a good night, Dan. Take care. Hate seeing homeless people on the streets. I do too. I really do. And I'm torn with that, because half of me says, I really want to help them out. But the other half of me is, why are they there? What are they doing to get out of that situation? And in some cases, especially in my hometown of Wichita, they've done a number of news reports about homeless people who are not actually homeless. They just sit there and collect money, and in some cases, it's a lot of money. So the excuse me. The Grim Reaper says that spent most of his career overseas. I was thankful when I got back to stateside. Yeah. Did spend a lot of time over a lot of the way. So let's see. What else we got going on here? Come to Canada. In my province, we almost have enough Asians to make Chinatown in New York. Yeah, well, I don't have a problem. I just want to put this out here. I've never really spoke about it, but I have no problems with immigrants. I do have a problem with illegal immigrants. I do not believe that we should give amnesty to illegal immigrants. I believe that if they are looking for asylum, that they obviously need to go through certain port calls and do the proper procedures. If they're looking to become um, U.S. citizens, there's a process to do that. If they're looking to get work visas, there's a process to do that. Just jumping over the wall or crossing the border illegally, I'm not a big fan of that, because of the fact that those individuals may end up on government assistance, and I'm paying for it, and they are not. So that's kind of the biggest thing I have with it. So I'm not going to get really into the whole shenanigans with that, but I know there's a lot of stuff going on in the news right now with kids being separated from their parents, and the fake news with that, and then the not so fake news, and so on and so forth. I'm just surprised that all of a sudden now it's such a big thing when it's been happening for the last 4 years. No one complained about it back in the day, but all of a sudden, yeah, everybody wants to complain about it. So. BR 549 says immigrants are fine. Illegal immigrants equals no bueno. Exactly. Yep. So, all right. So let's get into the fun portion of the chat today. So I've got a lot of things coming. I'm just going to give you guys a quick update on a number of different things that are going on with the channel. Super excited about a number of the upcoming videos that I'm going to be doing. First and foremost, I've got a upcoming video with Daniel Defense. Hopefully, I will get one more rain session in before I pull this video together. Planning on having that rain session this weekend. But one of the biggest things outside of Daniel Defense is that I've teamed up with Brownells, and Brownells is actually sponsoring a build with Fit and Fire. So I'm super excited about that. I've already got half of it done. I'm waiting on one or two more parts to come in, and then I will be able to complete the second half of the build. I've got one video in the can ready to go, and we'll probably drop on Friday, and we'll talk about one portion of the build, and then probably the following week I'll have the second portion of it. We'll pull it together, and then I'll probably do a third video of taking it out to the range and getting some rounds through it. So super excited about that. Now, real good partner of the channel was able to get me hooked up with two different things. Well, one thing, and it actually is two different things. I got a whole bunch of stuff here, so if I'm looking down, that's what I'm doing. So first and foremost, here's the 6 Sauer P365, and this holster right here is a Tac Lab minimalist holster. So I really like that. I like these big clips here. It's got the wing on it to kind of help conceal it a little bit better. So there's one Tac Lab, and then kind of going to give away a little bit of the secrets here. Here is the other Tac Lab, and as you can see, you might see some additional upgrades to my Glock 19. So there you go. I'll have a video on both of those coming up here pretty soon. All right, setting those aside, what is next? Another big supporter of the channel, Drew. I really do appreciate all of your support, everything that you guys are doing. Here is one of the other things right here. I'm super excited about that. So there's a sneak peek at a new sight, new optic that I'll be running here pretty soon. I'm wanting to kind of mash that up with a couple of different optics that I have. I've got, let's see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 different optics that I'm going to kind of put head to head with this particular optic. So that'll be fun to see. Let's see, what else? We got this guy right here. I didn't see Michelle 2 Alpha in the live chat, but I think that she would be very, very pleased to see this in my hands right now. Drew was also able to allow me to borrow this. This is a Glock 34 Gen 5. This is what I call the Donkey D because it's about as long as one, right? But we're going to use this, and we're going to take this through a couple IDPA matches and see how well it does. It has been fitted up with some Ameriglow IDOT sights. So as you can see there, those look pretty good. Really like those. And yeah, so there's the Glock 34. That has actually been on my wish list for quite some time, but I think a CZ is probably going to take its place. One of the other pistols that Drew was able to allow me to use is right inside here, and I'm actually pretty interested to stack this up with one of the other Smith & Wessons that I have. This is the Smith & Wesson Core, so it's the Smith & Wesson M&P 9 Pro Series, and it's the Core, so it has the ability for you to put a RMR, this is the Vortex Venom on it. So we'll see how this runs. And of course, naturally, has the TLR1. So Drew, I wasn't able to give Dad the TLR1. I left it on the counter when I walked out the door. So, but if you want me to, I'll get it in the mail to you as soon as you get home. So just let me know. All right, let's see what else. So that. Oh, one of the other things that I really wanted to do is, like I mentioned before, with my time in Rome, I'm a big history fan. So I had a friend to the channel, Jacob. He reached out to me on Facebook and asked if I was interested in doing a review of one of the pistols that he had. And the pistol is actually one of two different pistols, but they're different variations. And I was super excited about this because it's a historical weapon. This one is a surplus model, so it's got some wear and tear to it, but I'm super excited to see how it's going to run. And that is a Browning High Power. Now, this particular one is an FN clone of the Browning High Power, but and it's a service model. I'm almost certain that this probably came from some European police force and got thrown into a surplus, I don't know, sale or something like that. So that is going to be a lot of fun. I also have a Hungarian clone of this, so we're going to test those side by side. Put a video together here in the next couple of weeks after I get some rounds through it. So super excited about this. The interesting thing, if you guys don't know the history behind the Browning High Power, is that it is a genesis of the 1911. Obviously, Browning developed the 1911 and then went on to develop the High Power. And then the High Power was the very first high capacity pistol. So it held more than 7-8 rounds. So that was super cool. Again, we're going to have a Hungarian clone to test it side by side, and we can kind of talk about some of the differences that it has. There's a few differences right out of the gate. I don't know very much about them, so I'm going to have to do a lot of research on those as we go along. So good night, Logan. Hate to see you go. Appreciate you guys swinging by. So let's swing back up here and see what we got going on here in the chat room. Logan says he would love to be able to carry at all times. Yeah, it is a privilege, and that's something that well, I should take it back. It's a right guaranteed to us by the Second Amendment. However, in most states, it ends up being a privilege, and we've got to fight for both of those, not only our right but also our privilege to do so. Kevin Uckdahl says, I'm looking for an outside the waistband holster for my Glock 19X with a PL Mini. Any suggestions? So that's a tough one. I don't know of any right off the bat. However, there are individuals that are jumping on board with the Olight weapon-mounted lights. So I would check out TAC Lab on Facebook. That's TACLAB, TAC Lab. See if he's got anything going on with the 19X. And I know for a fact that he has a PL Mini because I gave him one. And that's how I ended up with uh, my holster with my Glock 19 and the PL Mini on it. So definitely check that out. Let's see. What else we got going on here? Guys, a lot of chat going on, and I really appreciate it. So BR549 says Klinger makes a nice outside the waistband holster. I would say that they make a decent one. You might also check Bravo Concealment. They may be able to put something together if you email them. They may have to build it from scratch, but definitely check that out and see what they have going on there. I like Bravo Concealment. They make really good stuff. And NSR, check out NSR. They may be able to have something for that as well. So definitely check those out. And that basically covers everything that's going on with the channel. Let's see, I've talked about Glock 34, the M&P core, the high power, Glock 19 upgrades. Okay, so the Glock 19 upgrades, they're complete. I really don't want to show that off as of yet, but I will say that those individuals that are supporting the channel, they will get a sneak peek right out of the gate here pretty soon as I post that on that other website. So stay tuned for that if you guys are interested. And yeah, and then the Brownells build, we talked about that as well. BR549 says, what's y'all's opinion on weapon lights that can be recharged? I'd rather change the batteries. I'd rather change the batteries, I think, in case you can't recharge. So there's a couple different, theories behind that. So far, my PL Mini, I've had it for 6 months, and I have yet to recharge it. So that is pretty cool. One of the cool features on this TAC Lab holster is that it has a port. He built a port in here for the PL Mini that you can take your recharging piece and put it right in there, and you don't have to unholster it. So if you didn't feel like it, you don't have to. You can just set this on your nightstand and put the recharging deal right onto your PL Mini, and it's good to go. So that's pretty cool. Batteries are one of those things that, are you going to be able to find one? One of the interesting things with the Odelites is, especially with the PL Mini, is you can plug it into any USB port. So I know my truck has multiple USB ports that I can plug stuff into and charge it. So you can charge in your vehicle. You've got a computer, you can charge off your computer. Most of the lights that are out there utilize a CR123 battery or a what is it? A 3232, CR3232 battery, or a CR357, whatever it's called. Those are little hockey puck batteries. How easy is it to find those? You might find them at a convenience store, but you may have to go to a Walmart or something like that. And if you're out and about and you don't have access to those types of stores, you may be out of luck. So just one of those things to consider. I prefer them personally, but yeah, it's a personal preference and how you set up your rig and how you feel comfortable operating. So Drew says, I see batteries as a PMCS issue. Yeah, preventative maintenance checks and services is what PMCS stands for. Change them on a regular basis based on your usage. And that's very, very, very good point. Obviously, the more you use it, the more you dry fire and stuff like that, you're going to want to change those out more often. But either way, one or the other, you're going to need to either charge a battery or replace a battery. So just, yeah, it's a PMCS issue. Check them regularly. I would say probably depends on how heavy you use it and if you feel comfortable doing it. Maybe if you have a battery powered flashlight once a month. I mean, what's the harm in that? What's the harm in investing in your protection? It's like a life insurance policy. So BR549 says, I just use a EDC light with AA batteries. And that's very good. That's a very good point too. There's a number of people who do not suggest that you have a weapons mounted light for your EDC. There are a number of states that if you have a weapons mounted light and you use it to, you know, shine some light on something that you're seeing, but you're using your weapon to do that, that's brandishing a firearm and you can be arrested for it. So even if you do have a weapons mounted light, it's always good to carry a EDC light with you. With that being said, I have been in contact with Olight. They have sent me a brand new flashlight that they haven't released yet, and they are sending another one as well. Both of these will be released here in the next week or two. So I'll have some videos coming out on new EDC lights. One of them is actually really, really cool. I really, really like it. I haven't seen the other one yet, but I'm super excited about both of them because they looks like they're both going to hit really good price points. So yeah, the Grim Reaper says carry both. Fully agree. So with that being said, what other questions you guys got besides the EDC stuff with the lights? Let's see here. Yep, not too much else going on. You know, this has been kind of a chill live chat. I just want to kind of get back into the swing of things. I'm hoping to have a guest next week, but I've got to confirm that. And I'm going to try to alternate weeks of having a guest on and then doing my Alone and Unafraid so I can really kind of talk to you guys and engage you guys. BR549 says Bushnell makes a good flashlight for $25, 300 lumens, has red and blue lights as well on it. And yeah, there's a number of different companies out there. If you don't want to spend the money for a Surefire light, regardless if it's one of their handhelds or weapons mounted lights, you've got Olight that's going to save you a little bit of money. But then you have some of these other companies like Bushnell that makes a lot of decent budget lights. I mean, I don't know anything about it. I don't know how rugged they are, but anyway, so let's go ahead and start wrapping things up here, guys. I sure do appreciate everybody swinging by. It's always a lot of fun to be able to engage you guys and chat with you. I've pretty much covered everything that I wanted to talk about. I will do a video on my vacation. So if you guys are interested in seeing that, I'm going to post a video on the specifics behind the vacation so you guys can see some video and some images of everything that I got to see. I will not be able to show you video or images of the Vatican because you are not permitted to take pictures inside the Vatican. And yeah, so, but everything else I was able to get pictures of, to include Cinque Terre and the Colosseum and Capri. I've got a picture of the Chateau d'If and a lot of other things. So it's been a lot of fun, and we'll get a video out to you probably here in the next month or so. I'm going to take my time pulling it together because I want it to be really well done. With that, I want to wish everybody a happy Trader's Day, or as we say it here in the United States, happy Independence Day. I wish you guys have a great 4th of July. Make sure you guys are staying safe. I know here in the state of Kansas, it's going to be incredibly hot. So if you're going to be out partying, make sure you're also drinking a lot of water. And no, that does not mean that you can drink beer all day just because beer has water in it. You actually have to drink actual water. Make sure you're putting on sunblock as well, because nobody wants to get melanoma. And finally, be safe around fireworks. Make sure you're following the instructions. You're not doing anything stupid. I know when I was young, and my brother can attest to this, that we used to have Roman candle wars where we'd actually shoot Roman candles at each other, and it's all fun and games till you get one in the face. So anyway, you guys be safe out there. Enjoy your time. Enjoy your freedom. Enjoy your Independence Day. I sure do appreciate everybody's support of the channel. I appreciate you guys swinging by and listening to me ramble. I don't know if you can tell, I'm starting to shut down. I'm getting really tired. So we'll just go ahead and end it right about an hour. And yeah, you still have a scar on your arm. That's funny. And yeah, Again, appreciate it. Thank you for listening to me ramble about the European vacation. Make sure you guys check out fitandfire.com. Hopefully, again, I can save you guys some money. And naturally, follow me on all the different social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, so on and so forth. So, again, thank you very much for swinging by. I hope you guys, again, have a great Independence Day and keep calm and carry. Take care, guys. Bye. Have a good night.